We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
well, good evening. Welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is one of those nights again where I have decided to jump on and just have a chat with a chat. And I see there's plenty of questions already coming in. Lots of people already know what this night is about. And yeah, your chance to ask me a few questions, make a few suggestions about the podcast, give us your views on the podcast, and obviously ask any questions that you want. And Stephen Kennedy comes straight in with this. He says, Steve, I got put on the spot at work today. This woman had a Springsteen t-shirt on and I commented on it. She asked me what my top 5 boss tracks were, but I couldn't narrow it down. Eventually, I gave her 5, but once she'd left, I was thinking, no, what about this one? What about that one? What would be yours? Stephen's given us his list, which was Thunder Road, Jungle Land, Racing in the Street, Better Days, and 4th of July, Asbury Park, Sandy. Great selection. And Stephen, I can see why you struggle, mate, because he's got such a great back catalogue. For me, I do love Bruce's early stuff, but some of his new stuff's equally as good. So it is difficult to pick 5. But my 5 in this order would be Badlands at number 1, Wrecking Ball at number 2, The River at number 3, not live though, because he can't do it live anymore. It's not very good live. Born to Run and Glory Days. So that's my top 5, mate. Great question. Love that. Thanks for sending that in. John Askew, good evening. Never shy with questions in these kind of nights either. Evening, everyone. Can Magpie fans trust Darren and Paul after the transfer window? Do they have the interests of the club and the fans as priority? And he also says, do you think the chairman would have had a quiet word with the chief executive and sporting director regarding the summer's disappointment? He then goes on to say, how damaging was the window, Steve? All of our rivals seem to have moved forward, with the exception of Liverpool, who are significantly ahead of us anyway. Could Brighton and West Ham be in the mix? And to finish this off, he says, do you think planning for the January window needs to start now in view of what has happened? The summer window is supposed to be easier, but look what we did. Okay, a lot to take apart there, John. First of all, can Newcastle fans trust Darren Eales and Paul Mitchell after this transfer window? You know, I don't think you can judge Paul Mitchell on that window because he's only been in the job 5 minutes. He hasn't even got his feet under the table, has he? He's only got a chance in this summer to get to know Eddie, get to know the players, get to know the staff. His interview that he gave, you know, and you know, was very professional, bog standard, interview. We poked around in his CV on the show, didn't we? Steve Hasty had a look, and he picked out some of the successes he's had, and he's had successes. But you could pick apart any agent CV, and you could say that agent's had great success, and pick out 4 great players. But then the rest of the time, he's not discovered anybody. So it's such a difficult thing to do. He comes with good pedigree. He comes with a good CV. We can't judge Paul Mitchell on that window. End of story. Can you judge Paul Mitchell on the January window? Probably not. Give him a year in the job. See what he can do. We've got scouts who go out and look at players and who pick players and who recommend players. They will be told, go and look for centre halves. The scouts, and I know because I know 1 or 2 of the lads went out and looked at centre halves. There was other people on the list other than Mark Gahey. But for reasons best known to themselves, Newcastle United only wanted Mark Gahey as the centre half to come into the club. Whose decision was that? Was it Eddie Howe's? Was it Paul Mitchell's? And who pulled the plug? Who said, no, we're not spending that money? Well, you don't have to look very far. It's the people who have the money who pull the plug on a deal if they think they're getting their pants pulled down. So that's going to be PIF. The Rubens will have a say as the next shareholder, but ultimately the main owners of Newcastle United are the Saudis. So any final decision on splash and cash comes down to them. They don't give a blank checkbook to Darren Eales and Paul Mitchell and Eddie Howe and say, just do what you want. Forensically, they will be looking at everything. So that answers the first part of the question. Do I think the chairman would have had a quiet word? I mean, saying have a quiet word, John, implies they're in trouble. And have they had a quiet word? I think they'll have had words. Of course they will have had words. They'll be talking all the time. Technology means Zoom calls will be, as we know from watching that poor Amazon documentary that we did, we know Zoom calls are, on the go all the time. These big meetings that they have once in a blue moon up at Alnwick Castle or wherever they have them, that's a physical get together. But do I think they'll have had a quiet word? No, because they'll have been in touch all the time. I think them turning up wasn't really significant. They seemed to pick the Spurs game for whatever reason as part of the annual visit or biannual visit, because they seem to come one game at the start of the season, one game at the end. They seem to pick that. I'd like to see the Saudis in Newcastle on a full-time basis. I'd like to see, fair enough, Yasser Al-Rumayyan's got so many other things that he does, but I'd love to see somebody in Newcastle on a full-time basis. And I am coming more around to Ben Jacobs' way of thinking that Newcastle United owners should come out and be a bit more vocal now. We've lost Amanda and Mirdad. It's in the past. It's gone. Will she come back? I'd love to think she might come back in some capacity at some point. But at the moment, we move on without her. We don't have a recognised face of Newcastle United. Darren Eales isn't the man for me. Nice guy. Bumped into him a couple of times, like lots of fans will have done. Seems very nice, very pleasant. I think he's probably learned his lesson for the situation that developed in the Stack a couple of weeks ago. That doesn't go down well with Newcastle fans. It's embarrassing. We all remember Mike Ashley wearing replica strips, standing in the, standing at, I think it was Highbury, in the director's box, swigging a pint of lager in record time. We don't want that. We don't want that. I don't believe Darren Eales is that kind of person. And Newcastle fans see that as patronising. You see it as belittling of our support, and it's not a good look for a CEO. I would have liked to have seen Jamie Rubin be the face. Why? Because he came in with Amanda and Mirdad, but he's kept out of the limelight. He's stood back. He's kept out of the public eye. I'm trying to remember what he was like at Queen's Park Rangers. I've only met Jamie briefly a couple of times as well. I don't have a relationship with him. Don't know him that well at all. But we have spoken, and I like the guy, and I think he would be the perfect front man for Newcastle United. He's very good on social media. He's very good at coming out and speaking, but maybe he doesn't want to do that. But I think Jamie Rubin as the focal point for Newcastle United and the person who comes out and says X, Y, and Z when things need to be said, take over from Amanda with the women's team. I think Jamie's the right man for the job. That's my personal opinion. But yeah, I think we need to do something. And with regards to PR, what I would also say, if I was going to give guidance, and who am I to give guidance? But I am somebody who has had to use PR myself in the things that I do, whether that be events or whatever. Make sure that you're telling the public the truth and not what you think they want to hear. So if we're not going to be busy in the transfer window, then that message needs to be on song from the top to the bottom. And when I say bottom, I mean Eddie Howe, because he's told us he's a couple of levels away from where he was previously. So the owners, the directors, the management all need to be saying or singing from the same hymn sheet. And that doesn't mean telling people what you're going to be spending, but that just means if there's not going to be a great deal of business, tell people there's not going to be a great deal of business. You might be bluffing, you might be going out and spending 100 million. Great if you do that, but at least limit the expectations of the supporters. Because the one thing that happens on Tyneside is when you build up the supporters' expectations, that fall from a height is far greater for people on Tyneside because we live our lives through the football club. Newcastle United isn't just for the weekend, it's 7 days a week. And that is the thing that Newcastle United's owners need to learn quickly. Amanda built up a lot of credit because she took the help facilitate the deal of the club being taken over. Might have been the Saudis' money, but Amanda was the face of it. And those are the little things we need to get right. Some of the things and some of the decisions they've made behind the scenes haven't gone down well with supporters. But I think the communication with us, the fans, is a lot better. Even down to the ludicrous situation that we've seen going on behind the East Stand, where they sent out a survey about that. That's impressive. I think they've got that right. And like we've said on this show, they're not going to get everything right from the start. It'll be a learning curve. And Jamie Rubin quite rightly came out the other day and said, well, there'll be bumps in the road. And there has been bumps in the road this last few months. So all in all, I don't think it's a bad job that these people have done over the last 3 years. And I just want them to continue, but I just hope they listen to what the supporters are saying and act accordingly. So again, long way around the houses. Do I think the chairman's had a word? I don't think he's had a word. I think there's been several words over the summer. But I think this period of unsettlement needs to settle now. But they do need to make a few changes. And I don't think they could go far wrong by giving Jamie Rubin a little bit more responsibility in front of the camera or putting press releases out or whatever. John, you asked about how damaging the window was. I don't think it was damaging. I think it would be more damaging if we'd spent £70 million on an overhyped, overpriced centre-half who 12 months ago, none of us would have been saying sign Mark Gahey. That money now can be utilised in January. I think we've got rid of a bit of deadwood, which is good. Have we strengthened the squad? Are the players that were brought in making the squad stronger? You could say that Lewis Hall was last year's player, but he wasn't. He's this year's player. I think he potentially could be England's, another future England international. He's a young lad. He's learning all the time. He's he is good. I'd like to see Asula, but Asula's clearly not Eddie Howe fit. Otherwise, we would have seen him by now. But he looked okay in that friendly, that little turn and goal. As for our acquisition from Bournemouth, I think he's a centre half. It's another body in, but it's not a marquee signing. I'm not 100% sure that he's a left back, but I think he's a centre half. So we haven't weakened the squad. We've got rid of some dead wood. We've slightly improved it, but not greatly. So for me, January will be a big month. Will Newcastle go big in January? Will they make a big signing in January? Who knows? What they'll do now is wait and see where they are in the league and make a decision onwards. I've just finished watching Series 2 of Mission to Burnley. If you haven't watched it, watch it, please. It gives you a great insight into a Premier League club. And into a Premier League club which, although Burnley are smaller in size as far as fan base is concerned and as far as a club's concerned, it's still they were still a Premier League football club last season. Watch that, and it shows you the intricacies of how a football club runs at that level. Fascinating. And that probably gives you a bit more of a feel about what it's like at Newcastle at the moment. The kind of conversations that happen, But give it a watch. Enjoy it. Right, I'm going to move on. I've dwelled too much on that. Tom, thanks for that. Yeah, the Carabao Cup game is away to Wimbledon, Tuesday the 24th of September. Kickoff is 7:45, and it will be live on Sky Sports, which is good. John says, Eddie looks class, but will cost a fortune. Even so, it could be worth it if it means top 4 finish. Surely something north of 80 million would do it and would be a huge upgrade. Yeah, I mean, again, Crystal Palace have got 1 or 2 really good players. Brentford have got a couple of good players. But I don't genuinely think that we are, too concerned about our midfield at the moment. Certainly not this season. I know there was a cry out for a right winger, but we'll get by this season. I think this squad, without the injury disaster we had last year, is good enough to qualify for Europe. Certainly finish top 4, and with a bit of luck, win a cup, John. So I haven't changed my mind. But the lack of spending in this window gives us extra money, I would guess, to spend in January. So maybe we will look at something like that. But as we know, January is a notoriously bad time to do business, especially with players up front. John says, what's your view on Fencegate? Has someone established we're extending the east side of the ground and trying to milk it? There's a post going around on social media which would suggest that somebody's trying to make a quick buck. It's unsubstantiated. I've seen names mentioned. And as I said the other day, I'm not going to mention the names on here because I don't want to start, I don't want to create a pile-on with somebody. But I genuinely think someone has just screwed their loaf on and decided to make a few quid. The question is, who had the land originally and who sold it and why have they done this? Is it to cause mischief? That's the big question. Have you tried the stack? And if so, what do you think? I've been once and thought it was excellent. The prices were decent. John, it's not my cup of tea, mate. And I didn't like the stack that was down at the Odeon, and I won't be visiting the stack. And a lot of the people who I'm friends with are the same. It's not our kind of thing, mate. Give us a backstreet boozer which sells cheap drink any day rather than going to an overpriced container where I've got to pay through the nose for food and drink and stand next to people who I wouldn't normally stand next to. So, yeah, John, that might sound snobby, but believe you me, it's the complete polar opposite. I like to be in a proper boozer, mate, and that's just not for me. I'll leave that to the young'uns, John. I'll leave that there. I hope you're not sick to the back teeth with my questions. I just enjoy a good chinwag about the mags. Yeah, and listen, John, getting back to the stack, it's great for the club, and that's all I'm really bothered about. But you won't see me in there. It's just not for me. And queuing up to get into places and stuff like that. It's and I hate to go on about it, but just entertainment and that. Before I want to stand talk to my mates. I want to sit and talk to people about what the game coming up. I want to wait for the team coming out. And for 20 odd years, I did pre-match talk-ins, and I did them last year. And this year I'm having a year off. I'm not sure I'll go back to it. But last year was a good year. Me, Gibbo, and Ando were out doing their thing, but 20 years of doing that. And then the years before that, most of you who know us were, I was going around pubs selling the fanzine or standing outside the ground selling the fanzine. So I don't really think I've spent a great deal of time with my friends and family pre-match. So it's nice to be able to do that. Jules, good evening. Doing our work in the chat. And get back to us on that date for the Christmas do, Jules. I think I'm going to go for that date that I suggested to you. So let me know about that. But as she says, good evening all. Welcome to the channel and show. Please click the thumb up, click subscribe and share the link to your social media. All free to do, and it really helps the channel. And super chats where you can make a little donation are available. Okay, Darren, good evening. Hi, Steve. Did you know that ex-Newcastle forward Paul Brayson is the manager of Newcastle Benfield? He's been there for 10 years now. Yeah, me and Brayson are good pals, mate. When we did the Pavel Cup, we did it for 4 years prior to COVID. We were doing it down at Dunstan, but obviously COVID finished it off. We used to get Paul to come along and play like for the Newcastle Legends team, and it was fantastic. But he's a great lad. A top goal scorer at lower league level. Never made it at Newcastle, obviously. I remember him from his time at Newcastle, but I know his dad very well, and Paul's a cracking lad, and Newcastle Benfield's a great club as well. But yeah, lovely bloke, Darren. If you do see him, tell him I'm asking after him. Jamal Lewis away, loan to buy, a good call. Red Bull sponsor. Thoughts, Roger? 2 questions for the price of 1. Yeah, I mean, Jamal Lewis going to Brazil. Strange, isn't it, to see him to see him going across there. Loan to buy is a good call. Yeah, I mean, we weren't going to get him off the books. You know what? The sad thing about Jamal Lewis is he actually looks a bit of a player, and he's had some game time in pre-season as well. And actually, he looks more of a left back than the people who are trying to play left back at the minute. But clearly, Eddie doesn't see that. He doesn't see him as a Premier League player, and we've got to trust Eddie's judgment on that. Red Bull sponsor, I think, is great because it's more money coming into the club. I'd far rather have an energy drink sponsoring us than a payday loan company or a betting company. So yeah, Red Bull sponsor is great. Can I give them some advice though, Roger? When they are doing pre-match outside St James's Park, please try and show some respect for the Sir Bobby Robson Memorial Garden, because that was disappointing at the weekend, seeing the van, this monstrosity of a van with music booming out of it and handing out Red Bull, parked on the Sir Bobby Robson Memorial Garden. That hasn't been given the respect that it should have been given in the first place. The council should be looking after it. I do believe Steve Hastie's written to the council about that in particular. But, you know, parking a van on there, really? Come on. You know, it just needs a little bit of common sense. So hopefully we won't see it there. Hopefully it'll be outside the ground. But welcome to Red Bull. Great news. Not sure what the deal is, but yeah, saw that today. Fantastic. Paul Charlton, good evening. He says, Brighton are the best run club in the league and maybe Europe. We are miles away from them in that respect, which is shocking, really. Now, Paul, this Burnley programme was great because this is obviously the season that Burnley got relegated last season, and, you know, Vincent Kompany and the chairman, Alan, can't remember his surname. But obviously they were talking, you're privy to 2 board meetings. I don't want to give too much away, but one of the board meetings, Brighton were picked out as like a team to look at in the same shape as Burnley. Burnley were wanting to do exactly what Brighton had done. And they were basically saying that Brighton put a hell of a lot of money in. You know, the owners who came in put a hell of a lot of money in. So, I mean, I don't know the full ins and outs of Brighton, but the initial investment must have been bigger than what the guys put into Burnley. And then obviously their academy that's produced these younger players who they've then been able to sell on, Casados, etc. That's where they made their money, you know. This year, they've decided to spend it. And I've seen a few Brighton fans saying they've got to get it right this year, because if they don't, they could be in trouble. And that's because obviously they've gone out and they've spent money and they don't normally spend it. So it's a bit of a gamble. They're obviously trying now to consolidate their place at the top end of the table. So that's interesting that you say that. But listen, at the moment they're well run, but this is a big gamble, and their fans see this season as a gamble as well. They've got to get it right. A lot of competition up there, Paul, as we know. We're up there, Aston Villa's up there, Brighton's up there, Man City's up there, Manchester United, and then Chelsea. Again, they'll be hoping they're going to be up there. There's so many teams competing. That's before you get to your Man City, your Arsenal, your Liverpool. So it's once upon a time there was 3 parts of this division: your top, your middle, your bottom. Now there's just a top and a bottom. Your top 10, your bottom 10. It's as simple as that. But yeah, I agree. Brighton are well run. Barry, good evening. Steve, do you think our fitness guru has warned Eddie that our high press energy game of last season and before is causing the injuries we had just this season? It seems to have disappeared. Barry, I think you're right. I've tried a couple of times to drop it in there on some of the shows. You'll have heard us mention it when you've put it in. Maybe it's one for the amigos where we're not trying to cram everything into an hour. But I mean, again, Barry, it's speculation. We don't know that that's what's happened. Maybe it is just the internationals. Those players who played through the summer. I mean, Anthony Gordon, everyone quite rightly is focused on Anthony Gordon. He was fantastic last season. He hasn't got up to the same levels this season. But the kid hasn't had a rest for two years, He's played through 2 summers. Maybe he didn't play the games, but he trained. So he's not had a proper break in 2 years. It's going to take its toll, no matter who you are and what you are. Is there a bit of it which is he's had his head turned by Liverpool? Possibly, but only he knows that. So again, on this platform, as a podcaster, you've got to be responsible. And I do see some of the comments that come in and the comments that are left in underneath the videos afterwards, especially after the fans forum last night, people criticizing negativity, etc. I host the program and I don't get much of a chance to have my say. So that's why occasionally I do these. I can't do them every week, but I do like to do them because then you get an idea of what I'm thinking and what my views are. I don't see a lot on social media, but I have started again to put a few bits and bobs out there just so you get an idea through the season of how I'm feeling about things. But it would be speculation to suggest that, but clearly there is something not clicking. There's something not right. It might just be something as simple as the attacking play isn't gelling at the moment for whatever reason. But I tell you what, when it does, if we can keep the same levels of defensive mindset as we've had in the first few games, Newcastle will be there or thereabouts at the end of the season. They will. So good question, but we can't really answer it. I can answer this one, Barry. Do you think it's a mistake to let Trippier go to Saudi or Turkey in the next few days? I know he's on a lot of money, but I still think he could be fab for us this season. Yes, I do, because I don't think we've got a recognisable left back. I think that Lewis Hall's best position is probably in the midfield. Is he going to get a game there, though? Probably not, because of the options we've got, unless we get injuries. I prefer Lewis Hall at left back at this moment in time. He clearly won't play Matt Target there. But if Trippier stayed, you could easily play Trippier left back and Livramento right back. Trippier may not want to do that, though. And again, we don't want to go down the road of speculation, but we know that there's been trouble at Mill. We know he's had issues in his personal life, and you're getting mixed messages. It sounds as if he doesn't want to go, but at the same time, you're getting told he does want to go. The club, Eddie Howe, was saying he doesn't want him to go, but then we get the impression that the club want him to go. So in the middle of all that, the truth lies, but I'd keep him. I'd let him see his contract out and let him go free. He deserves it for what he's done over the first 3 years, over the last 3 years. But yeah, I think it would be a mistake. I'd keep him and Wilson until the contracts run out. And if they're not going to offer them another contract, well, they go with our blessings. But I'd keep them both for this season. I think they could be big players for us. And just watching Trippier on the sidelines at the weekend and how he was, so involved in the game. I just think it would be a mistake to let him go. I hope he stays. It doesn't look like he's going to, but who knows? Sutty, good evening. Could you see us dipping into the out-of-contract market and bringing someone in? I was talking about this today to one of my pals. I mean, who knows? Who knows? We could do. But does it look likely? If we'd, we didn't go for Mark Gahey for whatever reason. If we're led to believe that Al Ramayan did say we're not paying that money, I know, because I have spoken to some of the scouts, that we had other options for centre-half, but it was Mark Gahey or nothing. Then, ultimately, I don't think we'll be looking for a centre-half. That's all we need. Will we go into the loan market for a right winger? Possibly. But if Miggy's staying and Murphy's obviously part of Howe's plans, and we've got Barnes, do we really need to go out and spend money on a right winger at the moment, or bring somebody in on loan just to add to the squad? I don't think so. So if it was a yes or no question, a yes or no answer to this question, I'm going to say no. That's what I'm going to say. Newcastle Under-21s are away to Bradford City tonight in the EFL Trophy. Kickoff 7:30 live on Sky. Tom, Steve, what's your thoughts on Newcastle's next step with St James's is being watched with interest by architects? Yeah, I mean, we've been down this road, mate, so many times, and we've just got to wait for the results to come back. And I guess we wait with bated breath on that, the feasibility study is very interesting, but most people want to stay at St James's Park. I think most people would accept if we moved to Leazes, but it's all down to what comes from that and what the Saudis want to spend. And again, is that the reason we can't go out and spend a fortune, because we are looking at the ground as well? Who knows? But we'll watch it with interest, Tom, is what I'll say to that. Barry again, do you think Eels and company will have been given any sort of warning to sort themselves out? No, I've just answered that earlier on, Barry. So I'll not go over old ground. The Saudi transfer window closed last night. Yeah, well, there we go. So that's that finished. Mark Byers, good evening, mate. I hope you're well, you and the family. I see the fence is back, albeit in pieces, but it's there again. Yeah, I saw somebody put that up. It's there's a really good post on the NUFC Matters Facebook group and the Facebook page. I allowed it to go on there after reading it. It seems to be a fairly honest report on what's happened. So if you want a bit of an update on the fence, read that. It gives you an idea on what it's all about. Ben's back next week, Barry. Obviously, transfer weekend is an absolute bloody nightmare, for him. So I did try to get him on this week, but he was busy. So next week, next week he's back on. We'll be having him on then. The Turkish window must be on for a bit longer, yeah, Dave, because that's why Trippier has been mentioned with that. Toonami, good evening. Question for Steve: how excited about the new Blake 7 Blu-ray set, fully remastered plus many extras? I'm absolutely buzzing about it, mate. Really, really good. I know the guys who did the some of the extras for it. I know some people who used to do, the props and the stuff like that. So yeah, we will be covering it on the next the Word on Blake 7 podcast on here, probably in a couple of weeks. And that particular podcast is going to have its own channel. We're going to have a second channel, and that's specifically going to be for that, because what I don't want to do is start putting stuff on here again which isn't Newcastle related. So we are in the process of setting up a new YouTube channel, so anyone who's interested in the Blake 7 stuff can have exactly that, Blake 7 stuff. But yeah, really excited about it, mate. Already pre-ordered. Pre-orders have gone through the roof, and yeah, really good. I'm busy listening to the prequel to the radio play Earth Search at the minute, which is fantastic. So that's good. And Earth Search is just a really good. It's a really good radio play from back in the 80s. But yeah, I do like me sci-fi. A bit of escapism does everybody a bit of good. Do you think Mitchell will drop the clanger this summer, Stephen? How do you think the ownership will feel about him in the transfer window? I'm worried Eddie goes to England now if he feels unsupported. Well, Blue Rhythm Boy, I've already tackled the first part at the start of the show. The England thing I'll tackle, because we haven't spoken about that tonight. Until Lee Carsley gets the job full time, or until another appointment's made, Eddie Howe is constantly going to be linked with England. But as I said on the show at the weekend, one person who will be, well, I said it on the Fans Forum on Monday, didn't I? One person who will be happy at Newcastle start at the moment is Eddie Howe, because he's had a hell of a summer, yet he's come through his opening fixtures with 7 points out of 9, and he's through at the next round of the Carabao Cup. So his stock continues to rise. England will be keeping an eye on him. But for me, the more that Eddie Howe wins and the more that he progresses in the Carabao Cup, the less chance he's got of going to England. Let's see how Carsley does with these international fixtures. And let's hope he gets the job full time. Because I'm happy to keep Eddie. I'll be happy to keep Eddie until until we win that first trophy. I'd love to see him be the first person since Joe Harvey to win something that matters. But yeah, I'm not too worried about the whole England thing now. I'm really not. And if Eddie gets sacked, then and the England job's still available, of course he'll go there. Of course he will. And I'd wish him all the best. Well done, Mother. Even and all managed to get Alan a ticket for City, but 8 hours later I'm still trying for mine. This will be my life now till match day. Steve, you are lucky. Only had it for one day. Yes, Mother. Well, keep trying. Keep trying. Mark, Steve, you met a lot of famous people. Which famous person that's alive today and you haven't met yet would you like to meet? Well, there's a couple. I've never met Bruce Springsteen. Steve Hasty had the honour of meeting the full band this year, and that in itself must have been fantastic. I'd love to meet Bruce Springsteen. Other musicians, Bob Dylan. I would like to meet Bob Dylan, even if it was just to tell him how big me dad is in the collecting world of Bob Dylan. But I'd like to meet him. Actors, of course, Robert De Niro, and you know what, Bruce Willis. Despite his horrendous illness, Bruce Willis was really top actor. Lovely guy by all accounts as well. When you see him on stuff, but Bruce Willis, I think, would be another one. Anybody else? I'm just trying to think. I've met all the bands that I wanted to meet. I've met all the Sex Pistols. I've met all the Jam. They were my 2 bands. Met a couple of the lads from NWA, which is mental, really. But yeah, that's probably it. I've worked with so many and met so many that yeah, I've probably ticked most of the boxes. Boxing wise, the only one I haven't really met out of all the greats is George Foreman. So maybe would like to meet him. That would be an interesting one. Sutty, I don't know if I'm the only one, but when watching Eddie Howe's press conference, I've noticed he doesn't seem happy. I would even say he looks emotional. Yeah, well, we've covered that on the show, and 100%, I would agree. Backstreets to the River, Racing in the Street, Jungle Land, Dean C's, Bruce Springsteen's songs, and Bobby Jean. Good afternoon, C. Dan Smith. I haven't seen you for a while. Hope you are well. Yvonne Kingswell. Steve, given the gear he was valued at 70 million, do you think that all those sharks and media circling around our Isaac should be told to start at 200 million for starters? Yvonne, I mean, look, it's the going rate for good strikers is the bar is set by Harry Kane, isn't it? You know what I mean? Harry Kane leaving for Bayern Munich is probably where we're at. It's starting at 100 million and up over. Good strikers are hard to come by. Finding clubs that can spend that kind of money is also the problem, though. Not many clubs can afford 100 million plus. But yeah, I would be disappointed if we didn't get something in that region for him, especially with Solanke going for 65 million. But 200 million, I think, is beyond reasonable price. I'd say anything between 100 and 150 million for Isak's the going rate is what I would say. SJP Dave, Darren Neal should come out and say something. It was him that came out and said this window could be transformative, and he couldn't have been any further off. Yeah, and he came out the window before and said we might have to sell one of us players, didn't we? So that's what I mean about PR. When you're in charge of PR, or you're the person who's the man with the head above the parapet, you've got to be responsible. And we can all make mistakes. Everybody does. We're only human. But don't keep repeating the mistakes. It's the first sign of insanity. Barry, Steve, will there be trials for the NUFC Matters football team you talked about? I don't think we'll be setting up a football team. It was very in jest. I have been contacted by Adam Pearson because he is making a football team up. He has asked me to play because I have played in a couple of charity games for Bruno's Magic Hat and the like. And I can still roll back the years when I want to. But I'm not 100% sure that we'll have a football team, Barry. It's not something I really want to get back into. I managed a Sunday team for 20 years. And yeah, believe you me, it's a thankless task, which I've told Adam Pearson. But good luck to him. I think it's a great idea. And if it's going to make a bit of money for charity and whatever as well, I think that's even better. But we'll wait and see. He is talking about, having a game soon. So let's see what happens. But Barry, you never know. There might be something coming up charity-wise, which is a little less exertive. So I'll keep you posted about that. Have I seen Eddie's Tyneside live video, The Land Behind the East Stand Saga? Dean, I don't watch any of these other podcasts. I haven't got time. And that way as well, I don't get dragged into things, mate, because, you know, I'm quite aware that some people like to have the say about me or other things, and I just get sucked into things, mate. I woke up this morning to Twitter being full of stuff about another YouTuber, which somebody had tagged me in. I'm sure it was very innocent, the reason that they tagged me in. They'd also tagged Alan Shearer, Bruno Guimaraes, Rob Lee, need I go on? And it's an ongoing saga going on about a certain YouTuber on here, and I just don't want to get involved in it, you know. I ummed and ahed as whether I should reply. I did put a reply in, and without naming the person, it was about people who video the game or blog or vlog at the game. It's not something I would do. I don't think it's a good idea. And what you have to appreciate is when you are putting a camera on yourself at a match and people are sitting behind you, they're on camera and they might not want to be. So people will react accordingly. And on top of that, I've got to be honest, when I'm at the match, I'll have a chat with my mates around us, but what you don't want is someone doing a running commentary next to you. So I can see it from that perspective. I've got to be honest, if you go to the match, what are you, if you're not, forget about YouTube. If you're a fan, what are you videoing the match for? Match of the day's on the night time, or you'll see it on Sky. You're going to see the goals. I can understand you coming in and videoing war flags. I do that. Video war flags, tribute or whatever, and, you know, get a photo of you at the game afterwards or at half time. But people sitting constantly with a camera, it can be frustrating and annoying for those people sitting next to them. So, but Eddie, no, I don't watch his videos. Met him, canny kid, but I have, you know, we do our own research and we know what he's probably said is fairly accurate. Put it that way. Other people who've spoken to us about it have said, "Oh, it's quite a good video, that," and it's what we've already been talking about on here. Eels needs to be careful talking the talk on stage at the start, but not walking the walk during the summer transfer period. Agrees. It's early days, especially given Staveley only recently went. Yeah, Blue Rhythm Boy. That's the point I was trying to make. And generally speaking, like I said, everyone can make mistakes. So let him learn from it. Let him learn from it. You know, he might think, who's Steve Wraith, or who are these fans to tell me how to do my job? I did this at Atlanta. But at the end of the day, take criticism. We all get criticised. Accept the criticism. Take it. Learn from it. Move on. You're getting things right, but you have got some things wrong. And you need to correct some of these things that you're getting wrong, because if you don't, you continue to do that, then it just gets worse. We've seen it. We've seen it over the years. And you know, we saw it under Mike Ashley, you know, for 14 years. We don't need to see that kind of behaviour from the chief executive. And I'm not the only person saying it. You know, there's other fan groups who are coming out and saying it. The difference with us at this channel is that we're not beholden to the club. You know, we don't get free tickets. We don't ask for free tickets. We don't get any preferential treatment. We don't want to go to the women's games. We support the women's team, but we leave that to other people in other channels. This channel is a critical friend, and this channel is built up of people who are of a certain age and are a certain ilk and remember certain times. And our opinion is just as valid as the youngsters' opinions, or just as valid as those people who are slightly older. We've got a great representation on here from George all the way down, you know, and we go, you know, our supporting days go back to, you know, the late 40s, early 50s. So, you know, for us, we're just a small part of the fan base, but we're an important one in our age category. And all of you guys in the chat of a certain age, from, you know, yeah, because we know from the demographic that people watch from the late 30s onwards, you know, we've all got a point to make. And the reason this community is so special is that we do it in a proper way. We do it in a polite way, but we express ourselves. And none of it, we don't always agree. We don't always agree on here. we try not to be critical, but we also try too critical, sorry, but we also try not to lead you up the garden path. And I guess it's, it is difficult. It is difficult. Like the lads will tell you that they've told you on this many, many times that from our perspective, we get information. If we went public every week with the information we get from different people, then it would blow people's minds. But also, some of it's right and some of it's wrong. So we try not to say something, but it's difficult not to say some things because we know they're true. So it's just, it's Newcastle United, and it's no different to being in the pub with your mates. Take away YouTube, take away Twitter, X, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. Take away social media. And we all used to stand in a pub. Somebody would hear a story from the groundsman, or somebody would hear something from somebody who works in the players' bar, and they would say, such and such isn't happy, or Newcastle's going to get this player in. And that's how gossip started. The difference now is that you've got YouTube and you've got lots of podcasters, some who go to the match, some who don't go to the game, some who go to some games, and some who don't go to any games at all. And that can be criticised by people. And does it mean you're not a fan if you can't afford to go to the game? Of course it doesn't. You're still a fan. Does it mean you're not a fan if you're an expat mag who hasn't got a season ticket now, but you used to go 20 years ago? Of course it doesn't. You're a fan. Nobody can say you're not a fan. But we all need that gossip. We all like that gossip, especially if it's positive. But the negative stuff goes around quicker. And that's just the world we live in, You can move that into any kind of job, any kind of world. But yeah, it's, I could go on and on and on about that, but I'll not. I'll get back to the question. Sorry, I keep going off on a tangent. Eels has a lot to prove for me. He's at the top. Book stocks with him. Craig, I agree. What would you throw at? I'm not the scale of brick to mallet. What would you throw at date? What does that mean, Mark? I think I've come in at the back end of a conversation there, so I'm not sure what it is. Dan Smith, I believe it would be most helpful if the management made a statement of intent. The window was very poor. Explain to the fans. I think it would be great PR. Yeah, again, reiterating what I've said. I think that's great. And I genuinely think, mate, that would be, the right thing to do. Jamie Rubin, let him do it. Jules, thanks for this. From Jordan Cronin, Paris says the sale of Joachim Andersen to Fulham and an injury to Chadi Riyad made it impossible to do a deal. Is that with regards to Mark Gahey, is it? Okay. But, I think the price was too much anyway. Barry says, other normal people's jobs are based on progress and performance. Would love to see this used at Newcastle. Would Eels and Shola be straight out of a job? Yes, Shola gets a lot of criticism. I hear the lads on here often say, Shola, what does he do? I mean, he's come in as the Lone Ranger, but he's more of a club ambassador, isn't he? He goes out and to all the trips away. He was in Japan, he was in Australia, he was in Dubai. I don't know whether is he the Lone Ranger? Is he the Lone Ranger? I really, really don't. It's a strange one. It's certainly a strange one. Mark, I've just seen what your question was supposed to say. I am not reading that out. Bit late. Let's get back onto the positive train. Unbeaten through in cup and players gaining fitness. David, yeah, I mean, we do try to be positive. It was difficult for me last week, David. I've got to be honest. The transfer window always gets me down. Regular viewers on here who watched the show for 4 years will know that I do just, do not like the transfer window. And when we get nothing of substance in the transfer window, when we expected to get something in, it really got to me, and I was angry last week. Add to that, not getting Oasis tickets. It wasn't a very good week. But I'm not looking back in anger, David. I've moved on. Roger Cook, would the Spurs choice have anything to do with their super ground? Not sure what that is. Steve, we've another diehard Toon fan, but not in human form. Our dog Betty was jumping up on me, all excited, celebrated when we scored the 2 goals. She's now got a Toon neck scarf with carrot and blue colours. I love it. Send a photo in, Sutty. You need to send a photo in. We'll feature Betty as a Steve Hasty lookalike on Friday. Jules, I'm sure Luke Edwards said the PIF and possibly the chairman pulled the plug on Gahey and withdrew from the deal 48 hours before the deadline. That's what we heard, Gary. That's what we heard. Would you believe anything Parish says? Probably not. Who's the voice of NUFC? Not Eels for me, seems false. Yeah, I'd just say that he's just, Darren Eels is just Darren Eels. I've seen people calling him names, saying he's this and saying he's that. Not you, Dean. I just don't think, maybe he's underestimated Newcastle fans. And he doesn't realise what we've been through for 14 years. Somebody somewhere should have told him not to do that, not to do this. But maybe people can't tell him what to do and what not to do. Maybe that's half the problem. But dancing around at Wembley and, you know, it just doesn't sit with me. I genuinely think when you see people who work for the football club drinking, it's not a good look. And I'm surprised with our owners that that's been allowed to happen. Doesn't matter whether they're only having one drink just to be social, to show that they're doing it. I just don't think it's a good look. I tell you where Darren shone, it's like when you go to the strip lounge and he's coming down the queue saying thanks for coming and shaking people's hands. That's a human touch. That's a good touch. I was there, queued up, shook his hand, spoke to him outside Wembley. Wasn't drunk, although people said he was drunk before the game. He wasn't drunk. But I don't want this to be, it's not a witch hunt on Darren. I think, like I say, he's clearly, you know, look at where he's got in his life. He's clearly had a good job, but just needs to take it on board. Take the critical friend kind of advice on board. And not just from me, but from other people, you know. At least we put it across in a polite and sensible way and don't kind of drum up any issues. Just listen to what the public are saying. Stephen says, I'm in George's camp with regard to him. George has had a bit of stick about this. I mean, George does go, and talk about him quite a lot. Comes across like Harold Hill from The Music Man on the Make and flying by the seat of his pants. He sold us the uniforms and promised us shiny new instruments, but has not delivered. Again, your opinion, Stephen, but, there is that kind of feeling about him. Mark says, I don't think Jamie Rubin has the personality, Steve. He's very monosyllabic and dull, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I just think because he was part of that initial takeover, mate, I do genuinely think that he would be better placed to come out and say stuff. We're not asking him to come and do 20 minutes monologue. Putting a statement out from Jamie in a typed format, like his tweets, would be better than, seeing what we're seeing, you know what I mean? And he's very good on the microphone. He can speak on the mic. Just, come out and speak. Come out and say something, Jamie. That's what I would say. Don't be shy. Doesn't have to be a long thing you say. Just fill it full of substance and tell us the truth. I don't know if I should be kicking off or sitting down and shooting up. What do you think of the new season? 7 points out of 9 and we're through to the next round of the cup, Doug. Simple as that. Early days, we're getting points and we're not playing well. We're not playing badly, but just give us a chance. We've got 2 weeks now to sort it out. Hopefully nobody gets injured. Hopefully those players who are injured are a couple of weeks closer to coming back. And when we face Wolves away, let's keep that run going. Do you think Asula will get a chance alongside Isaac? No. Different tactical option, or do you think he'll just be used as an impact sub? I think he'll be used as an impact sub. I think he'll be used to change the game, hold the ball up. When we're looking to hold on to a lead away from home, I think that's when he'll be used. I'll expect the same against Wolves, Barry. I think if Wilson's not fit, I think Asula will make some kind of appearance at Wolves. He's got another 2 weeks to get his fitness up. He's got to be fit. How fit? Asula for Wimbledon, if he's lucky, says Steve. The next couple of games. But I think he may get if Newcastle are winning at Wolves and Newcastle need to hold on to hold on and hold the ball up, I think Asula will get used for that to start with. He's a big lad, as Jack would say, Big Jack. By losing Amanda and A&G, is that part of the move to phase 2, less human, communicative into more corporal? Do you mean A&M, Amanda and Mirdad? I don't know whether it's part of phase 2. I don't think they got on with those people who've come in. I've got to be honest, I believe what Craig Hope wrote in the paper is true. Not everyone gets on. That's just life. And I don't think it had anything to do with moving to phase 2 and moving into corporate. We've got to move into corporate to make money. But I don't think it's anything to do with that. I don't think it was a part of the natural progression. Yeah, we've had decades of letdown, Andrew. Yeah. Do you think the players are worried about Eddie's position and this is on their minds? Stephen, it's got to play some kind of part. Some of these players, Bruno, Anthony Gordon, Joe Linton, all very close to Amanda. Is it a surprise that not all three don't seem to have got off to a flyer? It'll get better with time. They get used to it. But I don't think they're worried about Eddie's position. I just think it's the footballers are a funny breed. They don't like to be unsettled. So, and is there a change in the training? Has there been a change like Barry suggested before? Who knows? The Trippier situation, if Trippier goes, he's now not the captain. How do people take to Bruno being the captain? There is a players committee, we know, but loads of different things can upset the balance in the dressing room. And that's the thing that Eddie was most concerned about in that first 3 years, keeping that relationship in the dressing room. Chris Wood was a big player in the dressing room, might not have been great on the pitch for Newcastle, but big part of that kind of dressing room mentality, you know what I mean? Dan Burn is. So lots of things can change. Dimensions can change for lots of reasons. Barry, he says, I just want to say a huge thank you to you and the channel's become such a big part of my life. My new Toon family means so much to me. We all feel the ups and downs. We're stronger together. Yeah, Barry, thank you. And I get lots of this and lots of people coming up and, can I get you a drink, etc. when they see us at the match. And, it's just a pleasure to do it. I always said that one day I might just wake up and say, that's it. But you guys keep us going and saying to do it, saying you want us to do it. And if we're not boring you rigid, then, I'm at the moment, I'm still happy to do it. And I said, if I, even if it came to a point where I couldn't do 7 days a week, I could only do a couple, I'll keep it ticking over just to keep people happy. But at the moment, I'm still managing to fill 7 shows a week for 1 hour a day. I don't know how I do it, but I do. And that's down to the chat, the moderators, but also down to the wonderful people who come and give their time up for free 7 days a week. So thank everybody else as well, Barry, not just me. Steve, fans will not want to hear this, but do you not believe we maybe need to get our heads around? We may have to sell one of our best players to go again, many for 100 mil plus. I know. I mean, you've got to get used to selling players, Anton. That's the thing. You've got to get used to selling players. So that's that little. I know it doesn't seem like it, but Matt Ritchie was a huge player for us, and especially in those first couple of years for Eddie, he was a big player for us. So seeing those kind of players go, you do have to learn to let people go. Elliot Anderson, which Eddie was clearly upset about, having to leave to help PSR. So, okay, Elliot Anderson's not a £100 million player, but he got us 35 million. And he was, the Geordie Maradona was tipped for greatness at St James's Park, and he's never been able to realise his potential here. Got off to a good start, as has Minty. But it'll become easier as time goes on. And remember, it happened at other clubs. Mo Salah. Chelsea, wasn't it? Ended up at Liverpool. There's a whole host of players who've gone on to be successful elsewhere, but they started at a Chelsea or a Man City or a Liverpool, and then they've ended up at one of their rivals. So Newcastle, if they're going to be a big club, will have to get used to that. Maybe that's something that will happen in January. Maybe it's something that will happen in the summer. But the bottom line is Newcastle will invest that money and spend it at some point. If we can avoid injuries, keep our powder dry until the 1st of July with regards to transfers, we'll have another loss drop-off from the 3-year cycle and a plus from this year's PSR. Possible big kit, yeah. I think we've just got to remember, Gary, not to build our hopes up. That's what we've got to do. Don't build our hopes up when it comes to transfer windows. David says, I'm sure Eddie said we'll only buy players who improve squad, but Eel said transformational. That is where the letdown is, Eddie, in my opinion. Yeah, can't argue with that, really. I'll do a little bit more. Could you see Amanda Ramirez come back in some capacity, or do you think there is too much water under the bridge for that to happen and be considered? I think they could come back, just not as not as people who've got money in the bank, not as ownership. That's what I would say. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do another half an hour. I'll have the ad break now, and then I'll be back after this. So keep your questions coming in. I'll have a scroll down, see what the other questions are. We'll have the ad break now, and I'll finish that past 7. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to our NUFC Matters Fansine sponsor, United Group Travel. Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. All excursions included, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges, a 2-crew driver and courier. It's a local family company, and you can find them at www.unitedgrouptravel.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And if you want to help support the channel, hit the subscribe button. We do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up under the video. That's the like button. It does help us grow. And click the share button. Help share to your social media. If you want to join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month, then hit the join button under this video today. We also help the food bank on this channel. Visit nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. It takes you to the match day bucket where you can donate some money virtually. Some events for your diary in aid of Dementia Matters. The Long Sands will be reforming and be supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band at the Cluny in Newcastle on Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets are £15 pre-sale from newcastlelegends.com. An evening with Peter Beardsley takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January 2025. Tickets available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. And an evening with the Entertainers takes place on the 24th of January 2025. Telephone the box office 0844 249 1000 or visit the website tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge at the Gateshead Leisure Centre is now open. 7 talk-ins for £99. Joe Allen will be hosting talk-ins with Lee Clark, John Anderson, Steve Howie, Darren Peacock, Supermac, Steve Watson, John Beresford, all between the dates of January and July. £99 for 7 talk-ins, newcastlelegends.com. And don't forget, you can subscribe to our NUFC Matters fanzine, £20 for 4 issues with all proceeds going to Dementia Matters. If you live overseas, it is £50 for 4 issues. To order now, go to newcastlelegends.com. Okay, welcome back. I'll do till 7:30. Thanks for all your questions and your kind comments. The fanzine, we are at 70 subscribers. There's only going to be 200. Do not miss out, whether you're in the UK or whether you're not. All proceeds are going to Dementia Matters because Beverly at United Group Travel has kindly agreed to sponsor the print run of all 4 issues, which means that the only thing we're paying for out of the £20 that you pay for your subscription in the UK is the postage. 50 quid for overseas, America and Europe and Australia, wherever you live abroad. But yeah, 50 quid, that covers again the 4 issues and the postage to get out there. It's a nightmare postage abroad. So yeah, 50 quid is the price for anyone abroad. But it means that we can still give that, full money to the charity from the sponsorship. So we want to sell 200 subscriptions. We have on a regular basis 2,500 people watching most shows. So all we need is you guys out there to go to newcastlelegends.com. Give us 20 quid of your hard-earned cash. Go to newcastlelegends.com and buy the fanzine. Some great articles from Steve Hasty, from George, from Mitch, from a few of the old subscribers and writers from the fanzines I used to do back in the day. I've done the editorial, of course, but it's a throwback and it's a proper fanzine. Ideally, I don't want to have to go out and put these in a shop to try and sell the rest, because then there'll be commission comes off, etc. So please buy it. The first issue is just about ready to go to the designer, and it will be available in October. So we'll be posted out in October. But if you've got 20 quid spare in your bank account over the next couple of weeks, go to newcastlelegends.com and please subscribe to the fanzine. You asked for it. We've given you it. So please back it and please order a copy. It'll be excellent. It really, really would be good. I think you'll enjoy it. Okay. I have got a few questions, which I've managed to find. Apologies if I don't go through all of them. I'm not in touch with him, affectionate printer. I keep in touch with Richard, who is, though. I got my, fingers burnt, I would say, by helping him out by doing the recordings that we did during lockdown, which meant that I wasn't allowed to speak to him anymore on the phone, banned from the phone list. So I'm pleased I did it because I helped him out. But true crime's not a thing on this channel anymore. We moved on from that in lockdown. But I wish him well. And his Facebook page that Richard Booth runs is the place to find him. But he is doing okay. Next parole hearings next year. But he's had a bit of bad news this year, mate. But you can get all the information on his Facebook page. Pablo Davies, great guy, top bloke, and one of the fans forum. He says, thanks to Steve, I met my hero, Big Al. Amazing night. Thank you again, my mate. It was a dream. My pleasure, mate. It was great to see you that night. Tough time for me then as well, because my mum was on her last legs, if you remember. And tough time, but it was great to see you. If I had the opportunity to write and direct a film on one of Newcastle's greats, who would it be of? Would you have a cameo role, and would you play Shelby or Ketspire? Very good. It's a good one, that, would I write and direct a film on one of Newcastle's greats? I'd probably do it on Jackie Milburn. And if I had the budget, it would be great, because you could have the Charlton brothers in it, you'd have Ward Jackie, and it goes back to a period when we won something sooty. So maybe the life and death of, the rise of Jet. You could call it Jet, Jet. What a great name for a film, eh? Would I have a cameo in it? I'd need to have some hair. I'd have to find somebody on the Newcastle team photo, probably one of the backroom staff or directors, who was bald. Or I could wear a trilby, I suppose, with a bit of hair on it as a wig. But yeah, Jackie Milburn is the answer to that. Great question. Hope you don't mind me saying I'm pleased the Hasty Dog segment's been dialed back. Best save for when KP's on. You know what? It was becoming a bit monotonous. We have the odd one from Rita. But yeah, there's only so many times you can do something. Blue Rhythm Boy. It's why I took Troll of the Week out as well. That had run its course. The day I met, though, still life in that music yet. I have mentioned before the personal attacks and experiences I had from some other channels and their accounts on social media. Hand on heart, this channel and Steve have been really supportive. No problem, Jules. We don't get into the whole thing. It's why I won't name people on here, and people saying, "Oh, this, that, and the other," and we'll see it in the chat. But it's not worth getting involved. And it doesn't matter what world you were in, or what category you're discussing on YouTube. You'll always get people who want to have a pop. The best way is to ignore it and move on. Block, move on. And that was the one bit of advice I think I gave you, Jules, right at the start. Block and move on. Hello, Geordie lad. We will swap you Gakpo for Gordon in January. You'll never walk alone. Mr. Ice, how are you? Good to see you, mate. You've had a great start to the season. Thoroughly enjoyed watching you whop Manchester United. Put Melly back in his box on X anyway. Who was singing Paul Mitchell songs the day before. I didn't even send him Mind the Gap this week. I didn't need to. Gakpo for Gordon? Anybody? Yeah, Gordon to Liverpool. Be interesting that, if it happens. Do you think Barnes and Gordon starting works? Both look at their best on the left. I think it does. Why not swap them? I think playing with wingers is the best way to get the best out of Isak. I think they need to continue with that. I think continue with Barnes and Gordon and swap them. Let them have a bit of freedom. Swap them over. Confuse people. But yeah, I think you start with them. The one thing Gordon brings you when he's fit is effort. and Barnes brings you goals, 100%. KP's okay, seeing him on Saturday. I seen John Allen as well, who's going through lots of different kinds of issues. But yeah, it was nice to see both of them. I saw Liam Kennedy on Saturday as well. Leicester City have just won the case against the Premier League regarding PSR, just announced. Interesting. We'll have a look at that when we finish. Craig Roxy says, can we win a cup this year? Yes, 100%. I've took Newcastle, of course, to win a cup this year. I do think as well they'll finish in the top 4. So the answer is yes to that, Craig. Not having European football is certainly a plus point for Newcastle United. Dean, anyone else used to use the football pink to stuff in your football boots when they were drying out? Yeah, dubbing, Dean. A bit of dubbing on your boots as well. I used to like the smell of that. But yeah, I used to do that. Not the football pink. Usually the Sunday Sun, mate. Thicker newspaper. One with the supplements. I did notice, Steve, your frustrations and anger last week. Yeah, Jules, you did. You coped with it very well. There's no doubt about that. The whole idea of the FAB, I saw this. I can't remember who mentioned it earlier on. Somebody did mention it in the chat, didn't they? Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about it on here. It's like the fans liaison committee that obviously I was the fans liaison officer. Ultimately, tick box exercise is exactly what it is. Did I have any power? Did I have any real say? No. We can argue all day about the people who are on that committee and how they were selected. But it's old news now, Barry. We haven't heard a great deal from them. You hear more from Newcastle United Supporters Club than you hear from anybody else. Unofficial organisation, of course, but an organisation which is well run by Newcastle fans, and they do a great job. FAB, can it do anything? Can it make any major changes? No. I think the club get more information and more feedback from the surveys that they send out. But like the Supporters Trust, it's a necessity. The club have to meet with the Supporters Trust. But I think they've probably have they been surpassed by the Newcastle United Supporters Club membership? I'm not sure. But there's something for everybody. Let's say that. FAB is for some people to go to. The supporters clubs somewhere for some fans to go to, and you've got the Supporters Trust. It would be better if everyone was under the same umbrella and we all work together. But as we all know, it never happens. Newcastle United fans are disunited in so many different sections, different ways. But that's what happens in life. You look at the train industry. There's different unions and different organisations, and you can look at any job. It's just the way it is. So fan bases are going to be exactly the same, if not more so, because it's an emotive subject and not everybody agrees. So get used to it. We have. But yeah, it was a tick box exercise and continues to be so. Yvonne bumped into wheels outside the ground. He was a gentleman and enthusiastic about our progress, but he's a businessman, not like a man with a spark. Yeah, I would agree. And fair play to him. He's got to where he has, but through, hard work. Like I say, you've got to be able to take the criticism. He hasn't come out and reacted to what's been said. And I'm sure he will. Sean, thank you. He says, Steve, just like to compliment you on Three's a Crowd, an excellent 1 hour of good, sensible chat. Kudos to you, Ryan and Ted. Great show. Ryan is back. The Borough fan is back this weekend. He's had a couple of weeks where he's had to do a live, of course, because Borough kicked off early. It's good crack. We are going to add to that. You might see a certain cat back on that show, Jules. And there's a couple of ideas. But yeah, it's a slow start. We're building it up, but that is going to continue. So Three's a Crowd is going to continue. If you haven't watched it yet, it is me, Steve Wraith, of course, Ryan, the Borough fan, and Ted the Mackham. Good banter. It's a North East football show. And if you've got anything you want to promote on there, which has got something to do with other North East football shows, or give a shout out to a non-league team, then feel free to do it. Is YouTube your main job and source of income now, Steve, or is it still acting events? Still very much events, mate. I still have my hand in different areas. It's not my main job. I do an hour a day. I'm writing at the moment, doing a lot of writing. Writing a play. I'm writing a play about relationships, and it's a comedy, which is a big step away from writing a crime film. So it's something completely different, and it's nice to be able to do something like that. So I'm doing that. I write a poem a day, which those of you who see me on social media, I do a poem a day. That was a commitment that I made. So I started on the 19th of December, and I've done a poem a day since then. I enjoy doing that. And But yeah, YouTube's not my main income, no, and it's not my main job. ADB, always stuck to this channel because it's professional and Steve's effort. ADB, thank you, and I always appreciate your little messages, mate. It's always nice to hear from you, mate, so thanks for that. Craig says, why not take a points deduction and go mental in the window? Craig, great idea. But you just know that Newcastle will be massively punished compared to everybody else. You get one or two people who, one or two clubs who get a 4-point deduction. Guarantee if there's a 40-point deduction, it would be Newcastle who would get it. Nick DeMarco represented Leicester, and he's just posted on X. Tommy Wilson, hope you're well, mate. Been a while since we've seen you. Not the cat, says Barry. Yeah, on Three's a Crowd. Jules is over the moon. Three's a Crowd is a good replacement for the Three Legends, which I loved and enjoyed live at Ramside Hall. Yeah, I mean, it's just nice, and, we do have a bit of banter. The breakfast show that we did was great last year. Most of you wouldn't have heard it because you wouldn't have been out of bed or wouldn't have been able to get it on the transmitter. But we enjoyed doing it, and that's why we've continued to do it. We were told we were not going to be doing it this year, which is a pity, but we're just continuing to do one show a week, and it seems to be working for us. Steve enters the show into 30 minutes extra time. Will it go to penalties? If so, which 5 members of the Matters show would he pick to take a penalty and why? Steve Hasty would be first up. Good baller. Mitch second. Another good baller. I would then probably pick George third. Experience. Cool head. Fourth would be me, with me Mickey Quinn penalty, which I've specialised with over the years. Back to goal, turn, bang, bottom corner. But the pressure penalty, who do you think it would go to? Who do you think that will go to? There's no other person to take it. Stu Penman. Straight down the middle. So there you go. That's me penalty takers. Hope that helps. Which song would Steve do on stage or karaoke? My karaoke songs are Hound Dog by Elvis Presley, Heartbreak Hotel, Elvis Presley, House of the Rising Sun by The Animals, and It Must Be Love, Madness, in no particular order. So there you are, Barry. And the Christmas do, I think, is going to be karaoke. So get your singing voices on. Roger says, I'm 3 minutes behind now, but my gratitude to you, Steve, for what you do, the bona fide YouTube. Thank you, Roger. And it's been great to meet you, Roger, over the, you've been a big supporter of the events, and it's been great to see you, pal. Born to run, Barry, after too much red wine. Yeah, if you do karaoke, do not sing a song that you don't know, guys. Do not sing a song that you don't know. What else have we got? Any chance of getting Bernie Slavin on again? Maybe with Alan Gibbo. I know he's Borough, but he's great crack. Yeah, maybe. He's doing his own podcast at the moment. It is difficult. But leave it with us. Yeah, leave it with us. Hopefully we'll get Borough in the cup this year. For my Winner MS newsletter, can I use one of your poems name checked always with a copyright? I have poem per season. Yeah, Roger, go for it, mate. Not a problem. In my opinion, PIF will never deliberately incur a penalty because of the implications in other businesses if they are labelled cheats. Good point. Thank you, John. I'm glad somebody does. Whereabouts is your favourite holiday destination? What's your favourite restaurant of all time? Great streams. Thank you, Tim. Favourite holiday destination? New York in America, mate. I love New York. I've been 3 times over the years. Been as an adult twice. I performed as an actor there when I was 13. But I love New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia, lovely. But America, probably America. And there's a lot more to America that I'd like to see, which I want to see to America. And favourite restaurant of all time? It's a good question because Portofino is in Newcastle has always been like a favourite go-to over the years. But when you say a favourite restaurant, I guess you mean all over the world, maybe. Just any Italian restaurant. It's got to be really good. I loved the garlic restaurant in New York where everything was garlic, even the ice cream. But yeah, I guess Italians for me. I like an Italians. Jules says is busy because of karaoke. Yeah, Penman was the penalty taker. Oh no, says Muzza. Thank you, Steve, for the poem. No problem. Taylor says need to get you to give us a song next time you're up. Taylor, yeah, any one of them songs, mate, we'll do it. 100%. Good. Give Taylor a shout out as well, NUSS, and he's got some great, a great event with Beardsley coming up very, very soon. Stick the name in, the date in and the link in the chat, Taylor, if you want. Favourite football player that never played for Newcastle? Oh, that's a good one. I've got to say, in recent years, Mo Salah, he's my kind of player. I love watching him play. Brilliant player, scores great goals. People might say, why not Messi or Ronaldo? I didn't like Ronaldo, never liked him. I love to watch Messi, but we've already seen Messi at Newcastle, and that's Peter Beardsley. So, yeah, I would probably say Mo Salah for me. Not Ronaldinho, no, definitely not. Definitely not. Who was your favourite Blake 7 character? Avon, mate, played by the wonderful Paul Darrow. Tremendous streams. You definitely deserve all applause from the community. Thank you, Tim. Honestly, it's a pleasure doing them, mate. And like I say, apart from doing this show, I don't often get a chance to speak. Although I am starting to see a little bit more on the fans forum, because sometimes I think they need some positivity on there. What's your thoughts on Gary Neville batting for our corner at the weekend and Hairy Hands having another dig, plus that Plonger and TalkSport having a dig at Eddie? Yeah, hold on. I've got that. This is what you're referring to, isn't it? PSR was never designed so the teams have to sell their best academy players. Something needs to change dramatically in the next 12 months. Newcastle should be able to invest in the squad so they can get the level of Man City and other clubs that we're holding back at the moment. And that was from the Magpie channel social media. Made a nice little gif of a little JPEG of that. So thank you for that. Listen, Gary Neville's right. That's all you need to say, really, isn't it? Gary is right. There's nothing else you can say to that question. Would you rather pee yourself every time you blink or yourself every time you sneeze? Definitely the first, mate. Definitely the first. Steve C. Great show. Of all the players you've hosted events with, who's been the one you've enjoyed the most and who's the worst? Good question. David here, probably the worst for me, just because of the night out afterwards and just where he wanted to go, etc. Just not my favourite person at all. Just made things slightly difficult, shall we say, for me. And I hate to say it, but I've had some absolute nightmares with Gaza as well, and I always wish him well, top man. But many of you who came to the Lancastrian suite for the very last event that I did with him, it was awful. And I hate to see somebody like that, but people wanted to see him, and I'll be very, very cautious about working with him as an individual or with two people. I would probably have him up here again with maybe 3 or 4 on stage, but you just never know which guys you're going to get. And I just hope he gets the help that he needs. But, he's up and down, Paul. But he's a lovely guy, top bloke, one of my heroes. But, yeah, probably him. One of the best events. Tyson first time round because it was a novelty. It was an extreme fee for me to have a go at trying to sell tickets for, but I did it in 8 weeks. And I loved it. And the fact that the second time he came 2 years later, he remembered us and wanted us to go and have a chat with him. Like, he took us up to his room. We had 45 minutes together. I'll never forget that. Jake LaMotta, the boxer as well, the Raging Bull, just because of who he was, to be able to spend time with him, and Joe Frazier, from a boxing perspective. From a football perspective, my favourite, I love working with Al. I've had the pleasure of promoting him, interviewing him 3 times, sorry. And probably coming off stage at the 260 dinner and being told that was the best interview he'd ever done was probably a big moment for me. But I think the best event I did personally, again, and I've done it twice now, was Keegan Waddle Beardsley, because that was my first 3 Heroes. So to be able to promote that event twice, one event to actually go on stage and interview the guys, and this time round in January when we did it with John Gibson doing the questions, was great. And I recorded that one, so Christmas Day, you will all get a chance to watch that. Keegan Waddle and Beardsley and John Gibson. the Tyne Theatre show. Yeah, that answers that question, I think. Would love to see Amanda become a women's team ambassador. It was clearly something that was very close to her heart. Yeah, it's a good shout. Any way to sell the fanzine as an audio package for those who have to use audio books? James, I never even thought of it, mate. I don't know how we'd do that, mate. I've got to be perfectly honest. I don't think you'd want my dulcet tones reading it, but I'll speak to a few technical people and see if we can do it. But at the moment, I'd say no, James, to avoid disappointment. Maybe something we're going to look at for next year. Taylor, there we go. An evening with Peter Beardsley raising funds for Help for Kids in Dundee is on the 8th of March 2025. And go to NUSS on Newcastle United Scotland supporters on Facebook. If you can stick the link into the chat, people can just type on that and join the association. Would you like to see a PIF representative spokesperson based in Newcastle rather than Yasser flying in once in Blue Moon? You must have missed that at the start, Mark, but yes, 100%. I did mention that at the start of the show. Steve, I think you should expand your repertoire and do country and western song. Ooh, wow. Yeah, okay. We'll practice that. Live every Friday, Jules. David Hayes probably wanted to go to allegedly, Mark. Barry Hogan could see Steve doing Jimmy Nail, Big River. Be interesting. Taylor, evening. As I love the trips video you shared, brilliant to capture the stuff the media want. Okay. Tommy Wilson, random question, Steve. Do you remember where and when? Remember and where were you when 9/11 happened? Yeah, I was in the house. I was getting ready to go to work it was at the time I had an office in Newcastle. And I was getting ready to leave. I think the kids had just gone to school. And I never went to work that day. Obviously worked by myself because I saw the first plane hit. Obviously the news started. It was 8:44, 8:45. And then 9:15 when the second one hit. And I just literally did what probably lots of people did who were still at home that day and just watched the news. Tragic, awful. Watched a lot of documentaries about it as well. I'm not one for conspiracy theories, but yeah, awful that, mate. Terrible loss of life. And I've been back. I saw the Twin Towers when I was in New York, of course, and I've been back since to see the memorial. Thinking about next week, what's the timeline of putting out the podcast on Spotify? Special mention to Sid, and his music knowledge is very good. Tim, I don't do that. Media Arts do that. However, I've had a conversation today with somebody who might be changing things slightly. More will be revealed. I'm not 100% sure how it works and what happens, but we may be going on to a different set of like podcasts. YouTube will remain. For those of you who listen on the podcast, it'll be different. Media Arts, it depends where our man is in the world, whether he can load it or not. So that's why it fluctuates sometimes. And obviously he has to have holidays as well. He's not going to do it when he's on holiday. But yeah, it's something I don't really know much about, but he deals with all that. But I'll keep you posted. We prefer people watching on YouTube, but I appreciate some people like to listen to this as a podcast. Canny Show, cheers. Thanks, Dean. Thank you for your stuff that you're sending. It was on Facebook as well. We do get that. Anyone wants to send anything to the channel, at the moment, no email. Website as well has gone down for obvious reasons. As John Justice Allen, who's ran that for a long time, he hasn't got the time to do it at this moment in time. He's had such a bad year. He's okay, and he doesn't want sympathy, but he hasn't been in a great place. You know, one thing after another. We've decided not to have the website anymore. We don't need it. It's not something I really wanted in the first place. John just came along and volunteered it. And that's why the membership, if you want membership, is the only membership you need to get now is just by joining the channel on YouTube. Anyone who's got anything outstanding, please let me know. John will sort that out. But it's, our love and thoughts go with John and his family. It's been very tough. Have you spotted Big Dan Burn, my hero? What's he like off the pitch? I haven't, mate, no. I know lots of people who know him. I saw him once down the coast, but I'm not the kind of person who goes up and goes, "Oh, Dan, you're right, can I have a photo?" It'll happen. I'll bump into him at some point and, I'm sure we'll have a conversation. But when he was out with his family down at the beach, I didn't think it was the right time, Barry, so I just left it. Some real icons there. Steve, love boxing. Yeah, I've met them all, mate. Thanks, Steve Wraith, and thank you all who joined in the chat and got involved. Thank you, Jules. Dubois or AJ, anyone's right hand, mate. Anyone can win that. Mark's asking the same question. I'm going to go for AJ on that one. Great show tonight. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, I'm going to start calling it a day. Amazing show, Steve. Keep these going. Yeah, I will do, mate. Yeah, I do enjoy them. And it's only good if people are in the chat and ask us questions. And that's, that is the key. Johnny Allen has a change of luck. Me too, mate, honestly. Mark, you just, you think your life, you think you've got problems in life until you hear other people's, mate. Take care, everyone, and hit the thumb up on your way out. Good shout. Please, folks, if you haven't subscribed to the fanzine, please do it. 70 we're at. Let's try and get to 100 by next week. That would be better than 70. And if we can get to that, it's more money for the dementia charity, which I'm an ambassador of. Doug, good to hear your thoughts. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. So tomorrow, I will have to pre-record Superman and Gibbo. So that'll still be going out on Thursday at 6 o'clock. But tomorrow night is live, and it is Geordie's here, Geordie's there. And that will be 6 o'clock or 7. And then we'll be live on Friday night for the Amigos at the usual time of 5 o'clock. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening, whatever you're doing. And I will see you all soon. Take care. Good night. God bless.